So, I guess I should start with an introduction. Um, Nice to meet you all. Hi, I'm Mikaru. I'm a Wolfboy VTuber. I've been streaming IDV since January of this year, and I'm making a tier list for hunters and survivors. So this is going to be part one for the hunters. Just a little bit more about myself. I've been playing for about 3 ranked seasons, and I've been Hydra in all of them. So this is just going to be a tier list based on my perspective. Granted, I don't play every single hunter, but this is my opinion of them based on the ones that I do play, and I'll be sure to know which ones that I do and don't, and why I think they belong in those categories. So let's start with just, I guess these are in alphabetical order. First one is Axe Boy. Axe Boy is kind of hard to say. I feel like Axe Boy is actually pretty decent, but I've seen him do pretty bad. I feel like there needs to be in between tiers. Okay, so let's start with the S tiers, actually. We'll just go top down. This might be a lot easier. So first S, I think everyone agrees Dreamwitch is kind of like the best hunter in the game right now. There's not really a lot of contest in this particular subject. She's just able to hunt multiple survivors at the same time. She's god tier at camping, especially when it comes to camping in the basement. All you have to do is keep a leech on the chair and then have another leech follow whoever's coming for the rescue. It's really difficult to rescue from a Dream Witch. That's that. Let's see, who else is here? S tier, I used to think Breaking Wheel was going to be S tier, but I don't think he's S tier anymore. I think I'm going to put him at A, but like kind of the top of A, maybe A plus-ish. And the reason for that is just because survivors recently have been getting too much power spikes, and Flywheel is really easily used to counter him. Normally you can mind game a Flywheel, which is the IDV equivalent of Dead Hard, and you're able to dash out of the way of a hunter attack. But Wheel, when you play against a Wheel, when he has full presence or when he's about to roll you over, it's very predictable and you're able to dodge it with your Flywheel. So it can easily trip up Wheels that don't know what they're doing, and it can also make it a lot harder for them to land their hit. You can also use Flywheel to dodge the traps if you have a spike on you already. That being said, Wheel does have a lot of really good map pressure. He's able to pressure a lot of ciphers all at the same time. It's just going to be incredibly, like, it's just a lot more difficult to get that first down, and plus get the other chases in when Flywheel comes into play. Yeah, he's also not that great on certain maps, especially maps where there's a lot of like the ground color in between, such as Arms Factory. There's certain spots you can't really hunt in very well that involve like the 2 window areas, or like just one long window area. So I'm gonna leave him in the A tier for now. Okay, maybe you just do this. Bloody Queen, I'm gonna put her A tier too. It's kind of hard to say who, like my A and S tiers are really close together. It might be easier to put a number to them. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Make it a little bit easier for you guys to see. Yeah, okay. Bloody Queen is a really strong hunter. I feel like if you know how to play Bloody Queen well, you're going to destroy everybody. She is so good at pressuring other ciphers and getting them downs, mainly because she's pretty much unkiteable depending on what survivor you have. So survivors like Patient, Acrobat, Perfumer are really good at dealing with her, but if you have a harasser like an Enchantress or a Prospector or something like that, you're not going to be able to deal with Bloody Queen as easily. When she gets you down in the chair, she's really easy to camp out a second survivor by just attacking other ciphers from the chair position. So, and if you don't see her mirrors coming, they don't give you a heartbeat, so she can sometimes terror shock you through walls if you can't see her. Let's see, what else? Yeah, a lot of people call her the tie hunter, but in my opinion, like, she gets tie or better, and in my opinion, that makes her like a bit of an A tier. You know what? I'll move Bloody Queen a little bit past Breaking Wheel. I feel like she's a little bit stronger in that regards, because if she misses her swing with the flywheel effect, she can take another swing. But wheel, if you negate the spike from the wheel, it's another 5 seconds of kiting at the very least, because you can't just like do a circle and then reapply that spike. Clerk, A tier. In my like, so Clerk is kind of precarious. Like, she has to mind game survivors a lot of the time, and if you don't want to play that game with survivors, you can do things yourself. So like, I know a lot of clerks. She's still fairly new as a hunter, and I don't believe she's as popular as the other hunters right now, but I've been playing clerk a lot and I've had a lot of good success with her. If you can mind game a lot of survivors and doing things they don't want to, then she's a really strong hunter. For example, when you start recording a survivor, you can just start walking through pallets, and they can either A, drop the pallet on you and give you that recording, or B, let you walk through it, and they're definitely going to take a hit after that. Tight kiting is a lot more difficult against this hunter. You just gotta have to figure out the attack patterns. Not to mention, if they vault through windows or something, you can also vault through windows yourself to get that recording. You only get one of them, but you only need one of them to down survivors sometimes. So that makes Clerk pretty strong in my opinion. Not as strong as like Bloody Queen and Breaking Wheel, but she is able to pressure ciphers from literally across the map with her looking down thing. She's got a lot of really great endgame tactics. Her late game is probably the strongest of any hunter. I've gate kept gates for minutes, like full minutes, like maybe 3 or 4 minutes at a time, while all the ciphers have been decoded, and I just use the detention to smack people down. Like, you can camp out a full person and keep the gate closed for the entire time being, and it makes it a lot easier to get 3 or 4 Ks. So I think Clerk is pretty decent in that regards. Next up is Axe-Boy. I'm gonna say Axe-Boy is kind of B tier. I think Axe-Boy is decently strong. I remember seeing him in the NA Koa, but the team that went along with him, you don't see him in like the finals or anything. And I don't really watch too much of the IVT or IVC leagues, but I don't think Axe-Boy's been played very often. The fireballs like should be pretty strong. I say quote unquote like should, but like a lot of things like the entomologist bees or any other hunter or any other survivor that can just jump out of the way is probably going to do pretty well against him. If you're looking backwards, you should probably be able to deal with him pretty easily. Not to mention, like, at later on levels, I hear that survivors just take down the trees right away, so it's really hard to get those souls in the first place to hover around the survivors. Yeah, the other stuff, like, I'm kind of judging these hunters based on their early game presence versus their middle to late game presence too. And like, in terms of presence, I don't think Axe-Boy is that great until he has his full presence and he has that slow field after you leave the corrupted areas. So he's not really able to, like, don't get me wrong, Robbie's pretty decent. I just don't think he's as strong as some of these other hunters. So B is like average. Like, what is B in terms of grading? 3.0, and then A is 4.0, and then S is like, you got this. Let's see. Disciple. I give Disciple, like, he's definitely above Axe-Boy. Oh, can I not move these? There we go. Yeah, so Disciple is very strong chair camper. I've seen her have a lot of troubles in certain areas, especially places with two stories when she doesn't have presence, but she can use her leap ability to jump to her cats a little bit quicker. That's quite nice. I haven't gotten the chance to play Anne too much myself, but I quite like her design. She's very simplistic, very straightforward, and her camping ability is really, really strong, especially with the double stun. She can... Her main tactic is that she throws the cats out when someone's on a chair. She brings them both to the chair, and then if you try to rescue, and if you're too close to if you eat one cat, she's going to land a hit on you, and then after that hit goes off, it procs the second cat to jump on you, and then she gets another free hit. So Disciple is incredibly powerful in that regards. I just don't think that she has a lot of really strong chasing capabilities, especially with her cats. Like it has a very low cooldown, but at first presence it's very difficult. If you don't get a good first chase, like these B tier hunters are ones that if you don't get a first good chase, then you're gonna have a lot of rough time later. As opposed to these A and S tier hunters, their first chase is probably not going to be that difficult, and even if it is, their late game is incredibly powerful comparatively. She's a great tie hunter, I think. Yeah, I think Disciple is a pretty good tie hunter. She can definitely down people in the correct amount of time, but then again, like I said, when you're grading hunters, like you're kind of going to see if the hunters, these A and S tier ones are going to be ones that can reliably win or like at least get a really good tie. And I feel like she kind of has to fight for her tie a little bit. So that's why she's in the B tier. Haster, I don't know. Haster's kind of in the C tier. Like, so Haster is pretty bad with the tentacles. He doesn't need tinnitus. He's one of the few hunters who don't need it because his abilities generate based on his proximity to a lot of survivors, and I don't think that he's very good at chasing people. For one, the tentacles actually can be avoided if you say there's a tentacle like right here. If survivors just do a small loop-de-loop around it, they can actually avoid the hit. You kind of have to mind game with the tentacles, and don't get me wrong, it is possible, but in crowded corners like an arms factory or something, when there's a lot of really tall walls, it's really hard to activate those tentacles. And there's not really useful until you get full presence. Even if you do get the full presence, survivors can probably predict where the tentacles are going to hit. And not only that, he's got really slow pallet breaking speed. His attacks are okay, like his charged attack is pretty long, but that's not what you need to down most survivors most of the time. Yeah, he's going to be in the C tier. Like he can camp a chair pretty well, but honestly, like other hunters are way better at chair camping. Hermit SS tier, we'll see. He looks really interesting. I really like how he looks. Hitoki, let's see, Gamekeeper, yeah, he's kind of the same issue as Haster. Like if people just look backwards at times, he's kind of really easy to kite. He's got his traps too, but if you have a survivor on the chair, he can't really use his traps near it to prevent a rescue. I think that's like a really big flaw in his kit. And although he can use it to prevent looping around the same area multiple times, he's pretty weak to transition kiting, like a lot of these hunters in the B and C tier are going to be. I don't even know if I'm going to have a D tier hunter, like, because all these hunters are pretty decent at something, right? Gamekeeper, yeah, he's probably C tier. Like at least he has the hook ability to try and catch up to people. But without his presence, like even with his presence, I don't think he's that great late game either. He can probably get ties, but I feel like he's really fighting for his life for it. Bonbon, lower A tier. So Bonbon is like, I've been a Bonbon main for a while, and he, like, you can land a lot of your bombs, and he's really good at scuffing rescues. Survivors these days, though, if they're really good at paying attention, or if they know the timing of your bombs, they can avoid it for quite a while. And it's really difficult when survivors know the patterns of your bombings. Not to mention, they're also really hard to line up on PC. So like he gets the downs pretty easily, and he also is pretty good at camping the chair, but he really lacks cipher pressure. I've had a lot of games where I'm playing Bonbon, they literally just sell their first survivor, and I can't do anything about it. And then they pop 3 ciphers, and then I spend the rest of the time chasing down a second survivor, and then the other 2 are like starting to get primed. He has really bad map pressure, so, but like everything else about him is really strong. So you can get wins if you like scuff a rescue, or if you get like a really early down, you're able to pressure another cipher. But if you have just like one person, he can't really. He can kind of deal with harassment. It depends on your bomb placement. But yeah, his time bomb is really good, but again, they're only chip damage. Flywheel is okay to be used against it, and plus there's not a lot of really good abilities to counter him, so he's definitely like A tier. for example, like you can use entomologist bees, but then both yourself and the bees will take damage if you eat a bomb chip. Let's see. Yeah, he can just bomb through a lot of things. So I think he's really strong. It even takes out full suppresses, such as like the seer owl. It'll take out the owl and you can land a basic hit on the seer if you want. Is Bonbon the tie hunter? He can reliably get ties, but I feel like he's stronger than that. Versus 4 priestesses, yeah, that's for quick match stuff, but I don't think the people are gonna play 4 priestesses against him. Even in quick matches, I don't really see that too often. Let's see. The next hunter is Geisha. I feel like if there's a hunter that can reliably get ties, like Geisha. Geisha is hard to say. Lower end of A tier, like lower than Bonbon at least. I feel like Geisha is really bad at if you're up against really good survivors who know what they're doing. If they're going into bad areas, like it was kind of hard watching Koa happen last year, where like there was a bunch of Geishas played and hardly any of them won. I remember watching like the #1 Geisha in Asia trying to chase down one of the survivors, and they just were not able to do it. Like they got 3% escapes against like what, 3 different Geishas. I think she has a lot of potential. Like, don't get me wrong, her butterflies are very, very strong, but her hitbox is not very good, and she's easily counterable. Hi Elena. Yeah, so I still want to give her A tier because like she pretty much has flash and blink or whatever on what, a 6-second cooldown. It's very strong with the butterflies, and she can also travel large distances. Aggressive geishas usually take like abnormal or teleport, and they just go and attack people. I still think she deserves A tier based on like her playability, but like yeah, she can go through walls and like little cracks in the hospital and stuff like that. I don't think she's in B tier just yet. Ember D tier. Ember has really bad problems trying to catch people without presence. Like he can camp really hard with his dolls. Even then, like just because he can camp well with his dolls doesn't mean he's like god tier at camping. I think like Bonbon still does the deal really well, or Dream Witch does his job 10 times better. But you'll have a lot of problems trying to get a first down on Ember. And I think that like in IDV, this is the type of game where if you're not getting first down right away or like early enough, if there's 3 ciphers popped, you're looking at a draw, maybe. So it's pretty difficult. Crying it by being a Ember main, it's okay. Like he's not completely bad. Like D isn't failing. Like I don't think any hunters ever fail super hard. It's just like his kit isn't as good as some of the hunters out there, and comparatively like if you want to win in the higher tiers, I don't even like at Griffin rank, I don't think you'll see any Ember players. You might see like the 1 or 2 1-tricks, but it's very, very rare seeing it. There's a Ember sub main. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, you guys. Ember is just like, he's incredibly complicated to play. I don't know why he's your free hunter. He just is. He vaults windows pretty quickly, I guess, and he breaks pallets at decent speed. His embers are really tricky to use too, and they can easily be peeled off by other survivors. Like he really needs that first presence. I haven't seen one done so well that he's able to pull off wins reliably, but he did okay in Koa. Last I checked, he did draw one match, I think. Other than that, like this is based off solo queue tier rankings, by the way, not necessarily like rank 5v5 play, but in solo queue, like almost everyone knows how to kite in Ember because you don't really have to do too much to kite him. I'm actually planning on buying his emote first. Wow, yeah, the Gardener one with the hug. Let's see, Joker. I feel like he's like the budget wheel. I have seen like Hydra tier clowns, Jokers. They're just, I feel like he's also pretty easily kited and weak against transition kiting. I'm not 100% sure of the details about a lot of his abilities. I know the different augments you can put on him, but like just seeing him charge at people is a lot. Like it's really avoidable if you plan ahead of time. I think in the upper tiers you don't really see a lot of jokers, but Clown, like he can be good. You know what? I'm probably gonna put him like a little bit higher here, like on the C tier list, like B minus, C plus, kind of in that range area. Like he's able to double hit people with his charge up attack, but I think you'll find that like it's really hard for him to get that first presence hit, and he's very weak against some of the meta survivors out there. A lot of the hunters aren't like necessarily like bad hunters, they're just bad against the current meta, and a lot of the meta right now is like harassment heavy, super kite heavy. It's not really decoding heavy. So yeah, unfortunately like Joker suffers. He does have some map presence, but I feel like most jokers are going to have to camp if they're going to try to do anything. So he's going to be in C plus. Lucino. You know, I've seen a lot of Lucinos, but I don't always see them do really well. The double hit's nice again. Like a lot of these C and D tier hunters, they have double hit mechanics, but I think like all these hunters in the B and C tier have the double hit mechanic as well. It's just like based on how easy it is to use them, plus like how well they're able to pressure other ciphers. Lucino can't really pressure other ciphers really well. Yeah, he's got his jump, but he's got limited energy. He can't do it in certain areas, and he doesn't get the slam until his first presence. So if you're good with your jump and you're good with your mind game, Lucino's pretty decent. But if you're able to mind game survivors to that extent, then like any of these hunters are really good, right? So like Lucino, he's got a lot of issues, but I think he still deserves to be like in the upper C tiers, so we'll just leave him there for now. Mad Eyes, all right, hot take. I feel like should be B tier, if not like higher C tier. Like, I think Mad Eyes is actually a really strong character because people don't know how to use his you know what, we'll put him in C tier. People don't know how to counter his councils a lot of time and just like use up all the resources for it. But I've seen Mad Eyes like literally trap people and just down them that way. I'm sure there's ways to get around it, and he's got a lot of characters that are probably really hard counters. Like probably Patient or stuff like that. But I think you don't see a lot of Mad Eyes out there, but like theoretically, I think he can do really well. He breaks pallets incredibly fast. He just needs like that first presence to really get going. Other than that, he can block off ciphers really well. He's got incredible map pressure, and his late game is pretty decent too. I just think that like his chasing ability is kind of poopy. If the survivors are like really like on the ball trying to get away from the gates that pop up, then he can be a little bit easy to deal with. Plus you can see him looking at you, so he's like, yeah, you can see him coming, but you have to be able to dodge him too. And yeah, it's poopy. Hey, Cloudy Sky, hi. I've had Mad Eyes imprison me. Yeah, see, like you can have them imprison you, but you can still actually like just vault the walls and take a chip damage, and you probably escape out that way before he gets to you. Because they'll just like when they trap you, they're just going to town on you for a little bit. But don't forget that there's 3 other people still decoding for you. And if you happen to trap like a doctor or a priestess or a psychologist or something, you still got a downer all the way over there. And yeah, I think Mad Eyes, like, he's not the worst. He's very complicated though. If you have the map knowledge, you can play Mad Eyes. Nayad, I would have put her A tier before, but she's B tier now. Big reason, Flywheel. Like, I feel like Flywheel just messes with so many of these hunters now. If you're playing a Nayad and you try to encircle somebody in water, I've had people kite me in the water the whole time, get to 99%, and then just Flywheel the last 1%, and they start back at 0, completely avoiding the hit. Like, I think that's really, really strong. as for an ability. It's kind of a hard counter to her. You don't even have to transition when she's trying to make you transition by making that entire loop. So she's kind of just relying on getting her basic attacks in to get her first presence. Nayad's not really good until you get her first presence. Yeah, she's a little faster, but pulling back her harpoon and stuff like that, if you got flywheel and stuff, you're not really landing hits in a lot of situations. Very weak to transitioning. Before that, like before flywheel patch, I would have put her in A tier because she's actually pretty good at catching people, like catching up to them by fleshing them out. But now that you can just avoid being fleshed out by dodging the last hit, it's kind of nutty. I was down, no deal me. Yeah, it happens sometimes if you're trapped. Yeah, so Nayad's gonna be B tier. Nightmare D tier. Again, his abilities are really good, but for first of all, he's a single hit hunter, and like his dash is okay, but it's not really like a good. I feel like the ability itself isn't that great. I've seen Nightmare's dash, like if there's a wall here, they'll just go like all the way around the wall. Like they'll start from one end and then dash across and turn around, do a 180. It's nuts. But I'm thinking that's like a really rare occasion, and it's really, really extremely hard to do. Again, he's really bad at cipher pressuring until he gets his first presence, and he's very, very easy to kite. It takes literally forever for him to charge it up on first presence, and even if you do, like, he's very kiteable. He's not like Mary where she just walks through objects and hits you. He's got to actually land the hit on you, and he can't do it over certain objects. So like if a pillar is a little bit too long or a little bit too short, it doesn't matter. He's not going to be able to hit you through it. He's very weak to, like, he can't do anything about pallet spamming. He's only got one regular attack. Like, he has no other way of hitting people or doing like multiple damages to multiple people at the same time. The only thing good about him is probably his teleport. He's got like a built-in teleport with this crow. It's on a 30-second cooldown, which is quite long. I mean, it has to be for an ability that strong. But other hunters can just use the teleport ability if they need to, and he just has a lot of trouble catching people. And as we all know, like it's all about that first chase. If your first chase is bad, the whole game is going to be bad for you as a hunter. Joseph, like bottom of C tier. He's kind of I hate to say it, but Joseph is. I've seen Joseph do well. Like, you know what? I'll probably move him like above here. I think he's able to do really well. He has a lot of potential. He slows down the game a lot. But there's not a lot you can do with him if the survivors like really know what they're doing. Most survivors start hiding at the start of every round and make it a little bit difficult for him to try and get you down in the photo world. Plus, survivors can really wise up to it. Like Perfumer can perfume away his photo damage. There's a lot of like weird tricks you can do against him, and even though he regresses ciphers quite a bit, with accelerated decoding, he's just gonna be doomed for a bit. Hi Annie, how are you doing? His chase sucks. Yeah, he's really bad at chasing as well. Like, even if you get the survivors down in the chair, unless you get two of them at the same time, even if they're not all in the same place, they're just gonna pick themselves back up, and by that time they're gonna finish like what, 4 ciphers by the time you have someone on chair. Or yeah, he can locate people with this card trick, but I just think that's photographer. He doesn't have really good chasing abilities. You got to take like the pallet breaking speed. You got to take like the confined spaces. Like you need a lot of stuff to make him work. And if you're not able to get the chase down, like you're basically chasing as a Ember and you don't even have your embers. So you're relying on the flash at that point, maybe, to get it down, or you're relying on a mind game at a pallet. So I just think that like you need more power than that. Once you get someone on a chair and once he like starts to have some back pressure, he can be pretty decent though. And for the photos that like really know spawn locations, they can make that work. So he's not completely hopeless. Yeah. Jack, C tier. I feel like Jack is a good hunter. He's very simplistic, very straightforward. His issue though is the Windblade can also be dodged by Flywheel, and it has a lot of survivor. Like Ento Bees can counter it. It's sometimes kind of wonky. I've seen it hit through walls before, because I know it can go through walls and like smaller objects, but it's very finicky. Like I've seen it just straight up miss before targets it was supposed to hit, and his camping ability is pretty great. But again, he has the trouble with the first presence. If you miss like 2 foggy blades, you're looking at a tie. And if you like your first 2 foggy blades, you really have to hit it. Like I said, a lot of hunters are based on your first 2 chases, and for Jack, he's just too he's got a lot of the same issues. The foggy is like what, 16-17 second cooldown. Once he's at full presence, he's like unkiteable. He's very strong. So yeah, doesn't his foggy blade swing slightly to the left, which makes it easy for survivors to dodge it? It's slightly off center. I know what you mean by that. It's like you can adjust it as you're playing as you're playing Ripper. He just has a lot of first chase but issues, like a lot of the hunters in the C and D tier. Let's see. Sculptor. I think Sculptor's S tier. Okay, Sculptor, she is the whole package. She's like Bonbon but better. Like Bonbon with the map presence. If you're a good Sculptor, you can take control of a map really quickly. And the statues, if you play your cards right, like Sculptor's really good at making damage unavoidable. If you try to vault a window and you're vaulting too slowly, you're gonna eat Sculptor hits. Like I think she can guarantee. She's really good at getting like 3 or 4 Ks. She's no longer that tie hunter. Like I heard they nerfed her a while back ago, where her statues aren't able to land properly on people, or like they're a little bit wonkier with the hitboxes, but I don't really see that being too big of an issue with a lot of the Sculptor players out there. They seem to be landing their hits just fine, and at full presence you can just spam them, make the big Sculpture come out, and it locks on, so it's still very strong. Like I think Sculptor is definitely one of the best hunters out there right now. Plus with her chisel, she can literally take control of the entire map with it. She can like walk while she's in the chisel, so it's not like you can get the jump on her when you're trying to rescue from under her nose, and she can still use her sculptures from across the map. Yeah, I just think Sculptor is one of the best hunters out there. So it's not as good as Dreamwitch, obviously, but she's definitely very high up there. A full presence Sculptor is terrifying. Very hard to kite, and she gets it a lot quicker based on the amount of like multiple damages she can do. She's like Bonbon and Clerk combined. Yeah, she's just that good. That being said, she's a little bit easier to play on mobile clients, so she's a little bit trickier to use on PC. Lining things up in general is a little bit harder to do on PC because of this like weird snapping mechanic. I might do like a separate video about that, but like a lot of these characters were designed for mobile, and she is like clearly one of them. Violeta, B tier. She is also very weak against... Violeta has a lot of issues with her first chase as well, but her webs can kind of guarantee hits if you have enough of them. So it's like you're going to get your first down eventually, no matter what. If you're smart with your webs. I don't like playing her on PC either. Her web placement is really finicky. Sometimes you just hit the button and the web comes out. But a lot of the times, if you're in a place that should be allowing to have webs come out, it doesn't work. And sorry, the pet command's not working right now. I don't know what's wrong. But anyways, yeah, I'll fix it later. She's the tie hunter. Yeah, I feel like her wrap up ability, no one ever uses that. It's not really useful in a lot of cases. You're better off just taking someone to the chair, unless you're like really getting bullied. Oh, thank you for the hydrate. The ear wiggles. Yeah, she's pretty map dependent, but very good at maps that she's on. Yeah, that's another thing. Like she's probably not good on Hospital or Arms Factory or stuff like that. But like on Chinatown, where there's a lot of spaces to put her webs, she's a lot easier to play. Yeah, Violeta is just like kind of in an odd place right now. She can be really good if you know her like trick shot areas, but overall, I would say again her first chase is just not good enough, or it's not quick enough. So like if you notice between the B and C hunters, like again I'm kind of ranking them based on their core abilities. So Anne's cats, Nayad's spear, Axeboy's fire, Violeta's webs, those are I think a tier stronger than Lucino's jump, which doesn't do damage, Mad Eyes, who has to be on the council, Jack, who only has like a 16-second interval, which with an easily avoidable shot, plus he's very slow. Photographer, no chasing ability. Haster, very easily avoidable tentacles, and Gamekeeper, you can avoid his grab too. So that's kind of my reasoning. Percy, okay, I don't know about, like, Percy is, he's so wonky too. I feel like he would be like a higher end C tier. I've had Percy's like down an entire team and they still he still loses because they can just crawl out the door at the end. He has a lot of trouble with like camping, and although he's very good at getting his first presence, I feel like his last presence isn't as strong as like other hunters. Like his late game is kind of meh. His like big slam thing on the ground and then doing damage is very easily avoidable if you can see it coming. His dashes are pretty good, but it's very, very weak to tight kiting. If you just tight kite at Percy, he's gonna have a lot of trouble hitting you. Plus, like certain characters are just really good at avoiding him plus healing up. So if you're able to get away from him, like he's really got to work hard for that win. He can move the dungeon, but it takes a lot of time to move the dungeon. And it gives like I think people who are down have really fast crawling speed and healing speed too. If Percy does well in the early game, pressures the well, he could actually get wins. Yeah, he's got to really do well in the early game. But then again, like that kind of applies to all the C and D tier hunters. If they do well early game, they can do well. They can do well late game. It's just based on his chasing abilities. It's good, but his late game is really weak. So I think compared to some of the C and D tier hunters, it's either win or lose for him. I think he can still get draws pretty reliably. IDV tier list? Yeah, hi Mochi. I agree with like almost all this list. I would personally put Bamba in S tier and Grace in A tier. I don't think so. I was explaining earlier about Nayad's like her water ability. With the introduction of Flywheel, I feel like she's just too weak at this point. Like, if you're able to completely reset your water and not take any damage with Flywheel, like that just makes her very, very hard to deal with. Because you absolutely need first presence with Nayad, or she's just kind of poopy. Like, she can't really chase people down without her wave dash ability, and stacking up water is way too hard in certain locations. Bonbon, I thought about putting him in S, but again, like I've had so many Bonbon games where survivors will just sell the first down and I'm stuck with the tie. Like Bonbon can't reliably get 4Ks if you just let the first person die, because first of all, Bonbon can't get presence if you sell the first survivor, and he really needs the last presence to make it into the late game. And not only that, but he can't really pressure ciphers. If he's gonna camp, he's gotta camp. Like he can only pressure ciphers within his proximity, and it's not that big on big maps. In small maps, if you're lucky, you might be able to get one, assuming they don't rotate out of it. Joseph is C tier. Yeah, unfortunately, he's just not really good at chasing people. I think he's like not the lowest on C tier. Yeah, he's about there. You know what? We'll change him with Lucino. Lucino should probably be down lower, a little bit lower. Violinist, C tier. Yeah, he's got like again his first presence ability is like, well, his basic ability is the damage thing, but it's really easily avoidable if you just look behind you to see where he's tossing. He like a lot of violinists have a pattern of like throwing in between pallets or while trying to vault the window, so he can land it, but again he's got it down two people. His camping is like okay, it's not really great. In his first person, his first presence ability is the notes thing, that slows you down. I don't think the notes are like they're good. They can slow down cipher progress. They can you can see them coming from across the map though, and they help you a lot when you're in your chase. But I feel like they don't really do a lot after that. Plus, you can just turn them off if you just stay still for like 5 seconds, and even then, like his full presence ability is the crescendo, and you can avoid the crescendo by standing in between. He's like an okay hunter, but I feel like, you know, I might put him like above him. I just don't think Violinist is like that great of a character. Like he needs a little bit more something easier to reliably land hits on people. Why is Nightmare D? I hate him. He's just not really good at catching people without presence. Like even with presence, he's still kind of taking forever. If you just keep breaking line of sight with him and then just like even tight, he's weak against line of sight kiting and tight kiting. There's not a lot of hunters who are weak to both. Well, I guess some of them are, but especially him. Wax Artist. This is post nerf. What patch are we on? I don't remember. This is after they nerfed like all his waxy stuff. Like I would say he used to be A tier, but now like it's hard to say. I haven't seen too much of him after his nerfs. I hear a lot of people are having issues keeping up with his like wax keeping up. Like he used to have infinite amount, and now he just doesn't have enough of it sometimes. The hot wax got nerfed too, as far as I know, but he still is pretty good against a lot of harassment comps. I feel like he's too niche. Like he's a very niche pick. So I mean, top of C tier probably at best. Yeah, he's like if you're Enchantress against Enchantress, she can just not stun you until she's got a 3-stack. There's a lot of things that you can do against a wax artist, but he can bait people. Like he's still able to do stuff, and you got to get 100 wax on someone to actually stun them, and that just gets you a hit. That being said, his full presence ability, which is the hot wax, very strong. I highly recommend the hot wax. It's very good. And then last but not least, Wu Chang. C tier. Am I missing hunters? Are there that few? Hold on. 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's 23 hunters? That sounds about right. Wu Chang, C tier. Yeah, again, one of those hunters who have really bad first presence. Once he gets to full presence, he is very fun to play. I've taken a liking to playing Wu Chang recently, but I just think that like survivors who are good at kiting, especially ones in peak tier, are just not going to be hit by him very early on. You need to mind game them, peeper them, flash them, whatever. Like all these hunters in the C and D tier are going to need some kind of gimmick to down people. Wu Chang's very fun in matches. Yeah, I can say that much. He's fun to play because he's got so many active abilities. The umbrella throwing is pretty good for getting the jump on people. Like if he's lucky, he'll do really well. But most survivors don't touch a cipher at peak tier until they know who the hunter is. Like, because the chances are it could be a Dream Witch, it could be a Wu Chang, it could be a Geisha, it could be a lot of things that can just hit you if you're unprepared on a cipher. So at peak tier, it's a little bit difficult for Wu Chang. You might get lucky though. He's got the Link Click skin. That should make him S tier in my buggy. True. But we're not doing a skin rating. We're doing a just a hunter viability rating in this current meta.